You are listening to the Reed Fletcher podcast. Today, Myck Miller is on the show. He is a professional sports broadcaster in the Tri-Cities in Washington. Great guy, good friend, and I hope you enjoy the show. Okay, Myck Miller, thanks for jumping on, man. I'm excited. It has been a minute since we've seen. Well, I guess we're not really seeing each other, but
Virtually. Basically, this is the normal way of seeing people in the year 2021. So
yeah, I know, right? I wonder like when it's gonna, if at some point we're gonna stop trying, and it's just gonna be like, yeah, this is our life now. We just do Zooms.
I mean, even before quarantine, I was kind of like a homebody and didn't like go out. But like, I think now, like, I'm already preconditioned to be like, yeah, nah, just Zoom me or whatever. It used to be like
Yes.
you text somebody and meet up with somebody. Now it's just like, yo, just Zoom me. We'll watch this basketball game or we'll watch this Netflix movie together via Zoom. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see if we can break our conditioning of year 2020, 2021, and all the weird intricacies of quarantine and stuff like that.
Oh no, I know. Like in a lot of ways, I'm getting so used to it that like I don't want to go back. Like I don't want to hang out with people. I just sit at home, watch Netflix, like hang out.
Go to work. I worked from home for a year. I'm going to work from home all the time.
Like why do I need to go to the gym if I never see anyone? Like no one. I can post old pictures on my Instagram. Like I've got enough of those. People think I'm still fit.
Hey, I haven't wore pants this entire year. I don't think I'm going to wear pants for the rest of my life because I was successful not wearing pants. Why break a good trend?
And not to mention, I mean, the savings. You're saving a ton of money on pants. Like you know, that's a huge benefit. That's
I have not been shopping for at least like 2 years. It had been like a year before quarantine, then quarantine, and I was like, I kind of need some new clothes. And then I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not meeting anybody. If I wear the same clothes for a week, no one's gonna notice. So all that money has gone to my Postmates account, which is good because my pant size like changes every couple of weeks.
and I'm like, honey, we it's a special occasion. Let's go out to eat. Let's order Chipotle, DoorDash.
As opposed to the like Monday through Thursday typical like McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King. It's like, all right, we're gonna get fancy. We're gonna Chipotle, all right.
Like wear your fancy dress. I'll make sure to clean all the crumbs off of the counter, and we can just like have a special night in.
I don't know about you, but like I remember like in high school, we would do like the goofiest kinds of dates. And one of my favorites was telling a girl that she needed to like wear her nicest dress and get super dressed up. And then I would make dinner for her, and dinner would be cereal. And so I was like, hey man, high school Mick was thriving now.
That is, you
That's
come
the way
out
to
with like
go.
the silver platter, and you're just like, honey.
It'd be like a fancy table with lit candles and all the stuff that you would see like at a five-star restaurant. But instead, the options are cinnamon toast crunch, Reese's Puffs, um, and Honey Nut Cheerios. Those were my go-tos.
What else do you need?
Nothing in my book.
Um, I remember my first date. I don't know what made me think of this, but this girl, she knew I was turning 16 and we were friends. We didn't like date or anything, but she's like, yeah, why don't we go out? Like I can be your first date. And you can always remember that. I'm like, okay, cool. And so she asked me to go out with her on a Saturday. And she's like, oh yeah, like I'll take you out on your first date. How cool is that? Sweet. So Saturday comes, she forgets. I call her and I'm like, hey, we're going on this date. She's like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I didn't have my license and I was 16. And I was just like that one kid who never got his license. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll come get you. So I have never driven. I drive over to her house, like slam, like finally get there. I guess she had a girls' night. So it was like her and her friend. And so there's two of them. And I'm like, okay, so I guess this isn't really a date, but whatever. They get in the car.
Or it's a really good date.
Or it's like the best date ever. But I also had a guy's night the night before. And so I had a guy. So I guess it's like a double date.
Mm-hmm.
But we go to Neater's Do they have Kneaders in DC?
No.
It's like a, I mean, it's like a kind of, it's not like a nice place, but it's like a Panera,
Hmm.
basically. And we go there, and I'm like, hey, thanks for taking me out. I came and picked you guys up. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot my wallet. And my friend forgot his wallet, and both the girls. So, like, their date where they asked me out, I ended up taking 3 people out, my friend and the 2 girls, and paying for all of them. I was like, this is the biggest ripoff. You got to
You're
be
like, I am
kidding me.
never
We're going on
dating
another date.
again. I am never doing this again. Yeah, I remember my first day. I was a freshman. I was 14, and technically was not supposed to be dating yet. But this girl was a junior and she was on the basketball team. We were really, really good friends, and she was just like, "Hey, like, let's go out." And I was like, "All right, but like, I can't like tell my parents." So it was like secret. And I was supposed to pay, and we went to Chipotle. That's where we went because back in the day, I mean, you were in Maryland. You visited Maryland a couple of times, but this place called the Kentlands.
Mhm.
Everyone went there after school. Like it was either the Rio or the Kentlands. Everybody was always there after school on Fridays. You're supposed to go to Chipotle, and I left my wallet. I was so like nervous and like didn't want to get caught that I was like rushing, and I forgot my wallet. So the
Of
first ever
course.
date I went on, the girl paid for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a 14-year-old immature man pride was a little hurt that night. And I could have swore I saw my sister there like
Oh,
the
no.
same night, and it wasn't her, but like I was just like edgy anxiety. I was like, oh, that's my sister. She's gonna snitch on me. Not a great experience.
Dude, the nerves on those first dates. Oh my gosh. You're like sitting there, like, oh my gosh, what can I talk about to make her like me? And like, oh, why is my hand shaking? You know?
Like, why am I sweating? I thought I put a bunch of deodorant on before I left the house. I don't know what it is because like I had talked to girls and had friends that were girls, but something about the word date, I don't know. At that age, you just attach the word date to something and you just
Hmm.
freak out. When in reality, it's just a hangout. But at that age, you can't think of it. And even like as a young adult, sometimes you'd be like, "Is this a date? I don't know. Is this a date?" But like, it's essentially just you hanging out. But for some reason, that word just instantly triggers anxiety. Like public speaking, you say, "Oh, you got to speak in front of public," and for a lot of people, that just triggers anxiety. I think the word date also carries with it just this power of I cannot have a normal conversation, and my body is just going to sweat the entire time.
It's so true. Like, do you watch Office?
No.
There's this episode where the main character, Michael Scott, he's like, they go to have beers or something as like a company. And they're just like hanging out, having fun. And this girl that he works with like brought a friend, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Michael, this is the girl that I was telling you about," and whatever. And he's uh he's like totally acting normal, and the girl's liking him, and he's liking her. And then like halfway through, the girl that brought this girl goes up to Michael and it's like, "How's your date going? Like, how's it? This is a date? Oh crap!" Then all of a sudden he like tries to be cool, and he goes to this car and he gets like this cool like artist hat, and comes back and he's like, "Oh hey, like, what do you think about like culture and stuff?" Like tries to like come across in a certain way, and it just ruins it. And you're totally right. Like when someone says, if you're sitting there with a girl and you're just talking and you happen to be eating food, there's no issue. But as soon as you're like, oh wait, this is a date, I gotta like be cool. Crap.
Yeah, I don't know what it must be for like girls when, because like that's exactly right. You say date, and what's the first thing that comes to the dude's mind? I have to be cool. Like you could have been goofy for like the first 30 hours of hanging out with this girl, but then instantly you're like, this is a date. Now I have to act cool. I don't know what the girl equivalent, or if they probably, I don't even know if they're just like, oh, I need to be this. But for guys, it definitely is that like I could be goofy and acting a complete fool. And then once is this a date? Well, let me sit up straight and
I
let
didn't
me,
even do push-ups.
tighten my shirt up so I can look a little bigger. And it's ridiculous, man.
I know. Like I always, it's funny because like this if there's one secret to not coming across as cool, it is like thinking about how to be cool. You know, like if you're like, and I really want this person to like me, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna end up doing like the exact thing that makes you unlikable because you're like you're trying too hard and you're in your head and all that stuff. So you're like, yeah, like let me like talk myself up or let me like flex or what do you think of my calves? But like none of that is very cool to anyone, you know?
Yeah, and you know, you don't realize it like as a kid or even like as an adult, but like 9 times out of 10, the girl's going out with you because of your uncoolness factor. And once your attempt to be cool kicks in, she instantly is like, yeah, I regret this decision. I don't even know who
Um,
this person is.
I'm so glad that I'm not like on one of those documentary shows, you know, like Keeping with the Kardashians or something where they follow your family
Oh,
camera. Because some of the stuff I said when I was in junior high and high school, like some of the texts that I sent that were like, wouldn't it be so weird if we like kissed, you know, like underwater? Wouldn't that be so weird? Like, I don't want to unless like you do, I guess, but whatever.
the
You know?
go-to text in like middle school and high school to a girl that you liked was what? Hey, who do you like right now? Hoping she'd be like, oh, I don't know, and then eventually admitting that she liked you. That was the go-to text.
Oh yeah.
I cringe every single time I log into Facebook, and it's like, you know, like the memories. It'll send you like a notification memories, and I'll get statuses from like 2008, and like those were back in the day where like the status started with is, so it was like Myck Miller, Reed Fletcher is, and they'll from like 2007, 2008. It's like Myck Miller is thinking of her or wishing she knew how much I liked her, and I'm just like, this is out there on the internet, you
My
know.
first status that I ever posted, I just got a Facebook. My friends like kind of like pressured me into it. And I didn't know the difference between the search bar and the status bar. And so I wanted to I wanted to post or not post. I wanted to search up my brother's girlfriend, my brother's ex-girlfriend. He was on his mission at the time. Hopefully she's not listening to this. And so my first status was just her name. I just posted it. And then like 3 days later, I was like, why is this still here? Oh,
Oh, that's awesome. That is the greatest.
good thing I didn't post some like good thing I didn't search like sexy hoes in my area, you know, or something like that. Oh my gosh.
How to get a girl to like me. Uh,
Why no one texts me back? What's it like not being a loser?
that's a great story. Like, and it could have been so much worse. But the fact that, because remember, like, I don't know if you remember this. Like, I think this was like, at least when I was in college, subtweeting was a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
Because like Twitter, like when, in the early stages of Twitter, Twitter was so much fun. It was just goofy statuses and stuff like that. But subtweeting was a huge thing. And I think it went from like texting girls to like subtweeting about girls and then hoping they saw the messages and stuff like that. But it seems that your first Facebook status was ahead of its time and a subliminal subtweet about your brother's ex-girlfriend.
Not that subliminal, just like straight up her name. Oh my gosh. I remember subtweets like, well, I actually have never really gotten into Twitter because so it's a little embarrassing actually. I didn't have a smartphone till I was home for my mission. So I was like 21. Um, and so, but I had an Instagram and I had to get on my Instagram. I had like a name that wasn't my name. My name was Who
A
He
burner
Was.
account.
It was like, yeah, it was a burner, but like my friends knew it was me, but like most people didn't. And
Yeah.
I had to get on my computer and like,
Ooh, to post on the gram.
oh, and so I didn't have a Twitter for that reason, but I remember all kinds of subtweets on Facebook, like, what is that one that everyone always does? That's like, they like say, like, don't give me attention, but basically they're asking for attention, you know, where they're like, like, just such a hard day. And then everyone will message like, hey, what's the matter? Like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. So like,
it's like the person that's always fishing for compliments, and then it instantly like went to the internet and was like, this is so much worse than fishing for compliments in real life.
yeah, yeah. Like finally, I have a tool where I can reach so many more people at once to get so many more compliments.
It's the dopamine hits, man. We were like the beginning of the dopamine hits. Just like, I don't want real life interactions. I want you to like this post and send a heart and send a smiley face. Like, it's crazy because I remember talking with buddies, and like if a girl sent you a smiley face, it was all these like subliminal messages via emojis. And I remember
How
when
many
emojis
Ys?
first started, and it was just like, I do not understand this at all.
You guys remember the? Do you remember the like how many Ys they put at the end of hey? And
Oh
like,
yeah, if it was like more than three, she was like really into you, and if you got multiple Y's on a hey and a smiley face, like you were golden.
but if you got like just HEY period, it was over. Like, don't even contact her. She's
Yeah, you just can go ahead and block that number because it's over.
take some time, mourn the loss.
Meanwhile, our parents were just like savages back in the day. It was like, hey, who do you like? Well, not you. Like they were like direct, and we were just like, our generation was just so passive aggressive about stuff. But like I
Oh
talked
yeah.
to my parents, and they're like, yeah, if you didn't like somebody, you just told me you didn't like them. I'm like, what kind of evil person are you?
You don't even subtweet. You're not even gonna like ghost them for 3 months.
Yeah, all you have to do to let them know you don't like them is to pretend to be busy forever.
Yeah,
Parents
like
look at it like, what is wrong with you, idiot?
our parents had to ghost like in real life. They like would like see each other across the hallway.
And
You
be like,
know, our grandparents, when they were, farming wheat or whatever they did back then, they had to like you always hear those stories. Have you ever heard these stories? Like really old people are like, yeah, like I went to Margaret and I asked her and she said I was like the most obnoxious guy she'd ever met. And so I like asked her again. And after like the 30th time, because we were in this small town, like she finally gave in. Like, oh yeah, that's really romantic, Grandpa. Thanks for
and
sharing.
like, Grandpa, that does not work in the year 2021. You get labeled in year 2021 if you ask out a girl more than twice. She continuously says no. Yeah, it doesn't work.
You end up on
It's, yeah,
like
it's
one of
also
those.
funny, like exchanging like stories with grandparents
Mm-hmm.
and even parents, because the divide of the generations is so big.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think maybe it's just because it's us and our parents, we think of it as such a big divide, but it's just crazy because like, my parents and my grandparents' stories are very similar. Like there's some differences, but it seems like our generation and our parents' generation, there's just like such a divide. And it probably goes towards technology, and especially the internet and
Mm-hmm.
like social media. That's caused such a divide amongst the generations. But yeah, like hearing those stories of just like, yeah, asked her out 30 times, and on the 31st time was the charm. Like, Grandpa, you
You're
were a
like,
creep.
I would just wait in her car when she was coming back from school, and like that way she couldn't get away. I'm like, you cannot do that anymore.
I'm like, yeah, Grandpa, that's like 5 to 10, 2021. You need to not say that story in public too often.
I know it's weird. Back in the day too, people dated, excuse me, so much more like geographically. Like it's like, well, she's the prettiest girl in the town, so like I might as well marry her. But now, like, we have technology. You can DM someone in France, and like people, the scope of your dating pool has gotten so much bigger. Though that doesn't mean it's any easier. It's like maybe there's a
Nope.
billion people you can date, but that's just a billion rejections you can get still.
And then the phrase, there's more fish in the sea or whatever, that's become even more prevalent, and I think it makes it worse because
Hmm.
you're like, I have this huge pool to choose from. How the heck am I going to choose one? But then you like back in the day, like my great grandparents lived in a town called Georgetown, Idaho,
Hmm.
and more than 200 people in the entire town, and so your pool of choices is very, very limited.
Can you imagine? Oh man.
I just remember we'd go to visit them like in the summertime, and I hated it. Like the first couple days were cool. Like you go four wheeling, you like go outdoors, and but by that like third or fourth day, you're like, I want to go to the mall. Or like,
The
wait, you guys got
movies.
three? You only got three channels on the cable? Yeah, I got to get up out of here.
Yeah, for work, I had to go to like Iowa and Missouri, and we met in like these super rural areas, like crazy rural, like they didn't have addresses. Um, and so I had to call them and be like, hey, they're like, take the third switch back after, the pine tree or whatever. Not that bad, but and when you get there, it's like there is a lot of cool about it, like it's like this like laid back feeling, but like you get so accustomed to like I'm gonna go drive and get some gas, or I'm gonna go to the movies, or like I'm gonna go to the gym, or literally anything. It's weird. You like feel like you're on your own planet if you're that far away from everyone.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense why a lot of celebrities own property in like Wyoming and Montana because they live like in these, they can't go anywhere. So you may as well go to these places that are rural and don't have a lot of people that you can get away. But yeah, if you're, accustomed to living in, either a big city or suburban areas and you go out to those rural towns. I remember when I moved, so I live in Washington State now, but I drove from DC to Washington State, and we did it in
Dang.
like
How
it's
long a
like
drive?
I think we did it in like 2 days. It's like 36 hours. My mom was like, "Do you want to stop? Like, do you want to stop in Chicago?" I was like, "No, I want to rip the Band-Aid off. Let's just go." And like, yeah, I think we drove like 20 some hours straight, and
Oof.
like stopped in Nebraska because like all these roads were closed because it's Nebraska in March. And so blizzards were everywhere. So we stopped in a hotel, took like went to sleep, and then did the rest the next day. But yeah, you were just driving through Nebraska, and I was driving through these towns, and I was like, oh my, there's nothing, like nothing. And I grew up in like DC where there's like a bunch of people. I always go to New York. There's like no space for everyone. But I'm driving. I'm like, there is so much space in this country, but nobody wants to live in it because who wants to live in like Nebraska where it's winter 10 out of the 12 months and there's like nothing out there?
When you're
It was
driving,
wild.
so Nebraska's long, and so when you drive through Nebraska, and it's like it's very flat.
Mhm.
Like you're driving, you're like, wait a minute, like did I go in a circle? Like how long am I on a treadmill? Like everything looks the same.
It takes forever.
Yeah.
Like, are we there yet as a kid? Are we just out of Nebraska? Like, it takes forever. Like, driving through Nebraska, like, I don't know if any of your people that watch your podcast are from Nebraska, and I'm offending like a bunch of people. I apologize. But this big city kid he hates Nebraska. Driving through it is
Nebraska,
like the worst.
it's funny. So I've tried to be politically correct, but I just can't with this. I've always hated Nebraska. And the hate parade's going to come after me, and I understand that. But
Yeah, I'm
what's
right there
funny?
with you, brother.
Yeah, we're going down together. What's funny? My brother is serving his mission in Nebraska right now. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, poor guy.
Shoot,
He
crap.
needs some
That means
prayers.
I can't send him this episode. He's gonna come.
Oh
He's
no,
gonna
he's gonna.
end his mission early just to come and chew me out.
Hey, but it's true what they say, man. It's like you're going to hell. It's like no, I'm going to Nebraska. So I got a job offer to go to Nebraska when I was like going through the whole terrible process of applying for jobs and stuff. And
Right.
I got a job offer in Nebraska, and I said no. Instantly, I was like no. I'd rather stay here in my parents' basement working at Jersey Mike's than move to Nebraska,
Yeah.
where it's literally a frozen tundra like 10 times, 10 of the 12 months, and the other 2 months it's like tornado season.
Right.
So like there's no season where you're safe, but this is a really long tangent on how much we hate Nebraska, but I feel like this is therapeutic, like venting out all of these frustrations
Well,
of terrible like driving and
In
cross
our
country trips.
defense, in our defense, the Nebraska we know is on road trips. I've never been to Omaha, which I hear is cool.
I've
Uh,
never been to Lincoln.
I've
I
never
heard
been to
Lincoln, that was a
Lincoln.
college town.
Maybe it sucks. Maybe it's cool. I
Who
can't
knows?
say. Based on my road trips, it probably sucks. I'm sorry, those of you who live in Lincoln. DM me some cool pictures. Convince me. Like I'm trying to be open-minded here, but my experience has not been good. That's just who I
Yeah.
am.
I just found that like it's funny because you look at them, you look at a map of the United States, and I can honestly just be like, yeah, there's probably like 40 states that I'd never want to live in.
Yeah, especially living. Like if you go to Nebraska or you go to, like Wyoming or something like that, you can visit like the cool peak places. Like there's really cool places in Idaho, in Wyoming, in Nebraska, probably, maybe. Um, but like I wouldn't want to live there. And in fact, I wouldn't want to live in a lot of places that are cool even. I don't think I could live in California. It's really expensive, you know?
Mhm.
Like it's beautiful weather, but you have to find that place that's like the right amount chill that you could live there, but the right amount exciting that you're not like friends with the tumbleweeds.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the population, like there's like those 10 states that people want to live in. There's like the Californias, the New Yorks, Texas, Florida. There's those states that a lot of people want to go to just because of the glamour of bigger cities and that and this and that. And that's why so many people live in those specific states. And but there are like a lot of states where like you don't know, like I don't know anything about Maine or New Hampshire or Vermont, don't particularly want to live there, but like if you grow up in those areas and you've built communities within those areas, it's beautiful. But like I feel like a lot of people in America, there's like the 10 glorified states that people want to live in, and if you're on this, if you're like one of those people that move a lot, you just kind of bounce between those 10 states, and there's
Mm-hmm.
probably like 40 states where you just grew up there and you live there. Like here in Washington, I know a lot of people here that have lived, they just got families of generations that have lived here for hundreds of years, and it's just they never leave. And it's interesting to kind of like to see like those kind of, because I'm definitely the personality where I'm always on the move. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I'm living in a place more than like 5 years, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. I need a different, you know, I need something new. But there's a lot of people where they'll live in the same town their entire lifetime. It's kind of just interesting to see that like dynamic of like the two different lifestyles.
It's really strange to me. Well, maybe strange is the wrong word, but like the idea of like generational living is weird to me. Like my dad grew up in this town. My kids are gonna die in this town. My great grandpa, like my name's on the streets of the town. Like it's cool. I respect people that are that way because there's something about like they have like they like have roots in the community, but it's not me either. I can't imagine being in one place forever. That like kind of freaks me out actually. Like one house, like the people who go visit their parents, so I have a friend, won't say his name. He's old. He's like 50, right? And he goes to visit his parents in Idaho, and they still have his exact same room that he was born in. Like nothing's changed. They still have like the bed that he slept in high school. And it's like, I mean, it's just not me. I don't know. It's just weird to me.
Yeah, I think the longest I've ever lived somewhere, I think I lived for 6 years. I lived in Ohio. I'm trying to think. I lived in Maryland, D.C. for like 5 years, and I went to college. But I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, from 7 to 13, and we lived in two different houses. So it felt like there was, two different places while we were living there. But yeah,
Mhm.
I think I did like a calculation one time. I think in the, 27, and so in my 27 years, I've lived in over 30 houses,
How many
and
siblings do you have
so
again?
8.
That
No,
probably
I
has
have
to
7. I'm the oldest of 8.
So that probably has to do with it too. Like, so I have 9 siblings, and we kept growing out of houses, so we'd have to move because, like, well, we have more kids now. Um, I think it has a lot to do with how you were raised. Like, because it's the same with me. We moved so much. Like, I had lived in probably, I think, 13 houses by the time I went to high school. Um, which is like, I was born in Maine, which is like, what the heck?
And I
I had
totally
never
just
even.
dissed Maine like 10 minutes ago.
I know, and I was just like, so no, just kidding.
Like,
I've
I'm going to cancel this
never.
podcast right now.
We're done. I've never been there. I know literally nothing about it. It's like one of those things that I always like. It's like like I have it on like the Maine flag, and it's like Maine for life. I've never been there. I know nothing about it. I can't name one city except for where I was born, which is Waterville. Never visited. I left when I was 18 months. Um, but it's funny. I just have like this connection, like, oh yeah, like my hometown. Like I'm gonna go back someday and save the town. Um, but like I lived in Maine and then we moved to Utah. I lived in like 10 places in Utah. Me and my wife been married for 3 years. We lived in Arizona, Chicago, Utah. It's just like when you have the habit of moving, it gets kind of hard to stop because it's exciting, like new cities and like new town and new people. I just like
Yeah,
it.
like, I remember there was a 4-year span where I went to 4 schools in 4 years.
In high school?
In middle school and high school. Seventh grade,
Ooh.
I went to a middle school in seventh grade in Cleveland, Ohio. And then eighth grade, I went to a middle school in Maryland. And then ninth grade, I went to a private school in Maryland. And then in 10th grade, I went to a different school, a public school in Maryland. So I know this is your podcast and you asked me the questions,
No,
but I
no,
got a question
go.
for you. So we've both moved a lot in our lifetimes. Do you have like a small core of really good friends that you keep in contact with? Maybe not every day, but you have like a small core of friends, but not a lot because you moved so much. And so you got into this mindset of, I'm not going to build like these long lasting relationships because I moved so much.
Hmm.
And so you build these friendships, but like in your mind, you're like, this is, it's cool. We're friends, but this isn't going to last forever. Cause I have that. I've got, my best friend. I've known him since I was 7. We met in Ohio, but I don't really talk to anybody from high school. I don't really talk to anybody from college because it's not that I don't like them, but I moved so much in my life that building these long lasting relationships is really hard because in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna be gone in like 2, 3 years anyways. And so to invest so much of that time and effort is kind of hard, but you do have like maybe a couple of people that you're really close to.
Yeah, you like there's certain skills that you learn, especially as a young person, that I feel like are very, very valuable by moving a lot. And at the same time, there's definitely cons to moving. Like the skills, I honestly think it's been great for my life to have moved so much as a kid because like you have to make friends fast. Like the first day, I remember first day of 7th grade, maybe it was no 6th grade. It was a new school, and it's like the longer I go without like talking to people and like these people all know each other. I'm the new kid. Like being the new kid teaches you to adapt really fast, and it
Mhm.
teaches you to like make friends. Um, and it also, yeah, like certain social skills I feel like you couldn't get in other places. But then the cons are kind of what you're saying. Like, you're like, well, like I don't want to like be super attached because I might be moving.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and that was the funny thing because I remember when your family moved to Maryland, and we like hit it off immediately, and instantly it was Uncle Russ and Aunt Deborah and the cousins, and it was instantly this family connection because I think we also just had that mindset of you just were able to meet new people and instantly bond. And I
Mhm.
remember like I hadn't even met you yet, but your parents were like, "Yeah, Reed's your age. He's gonna come visit this summer. You guys are gonna have so much fun." And like we were doing stupid stuff, just like having so much fun. Like when we finally met. Um, but yeah, like you just definitely are able to adapt and make friends quickly. But it's not like these long-lasting relationships. Because I know in my mind, at least, whenever I move to a town, I hit it off with people pretty quickly, but as soon as I move to the next thing, it's not that I don't care about these people, but like there are so many people I've met that it's hard for my brain to process. Okay, this person, this person, this person. Like, there's so many people that I've met and had like relationships with that it's hard to like make those especially like special.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel, and it goes back to like people that live in a small town and community for hundreds of years are so attached to people that come in,
Mm-hmm.
and people that move around a lot aren't as attached.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. Um, it is interesting. Moving around a lot does a lot of weird things to you, like good things, but definitely sometimes, like before social media specifically, I remember moving and being like, I'm never gonna see these people again. Like that was hard. Like, especially when I was young, like in like third and fourth grade, we moved from like one half of Utah, like 45 minutes away. It wasn't even, like the end of the world, but that was sad for me because you get so attached as a little kid. You're like, we're gonna grow up and live right next door to each other. And I was like, I'm never gonna see these people again. Now, with social media, like I keep tabs on people and reconnect, which is nice. It's better. That's the same thing that happens on your mission. That's a weird feeling, leaving. Like we both were in Brazil, and it's like I am never gonna see you again. Like I don't have any like I'm not gonna pretend like it'd be nice, but like what are the odds that I will ever see you for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to pretend like, oh yeah, I'll come back and visit, but then you come home and and the reality sets in. For me, it was you got to go to college and you got to get a career, and then like there's so much that goes on that it's like I hate to say it, but like if they lived like in Hawaii, there's a higher chance because I'd love to go visit Hawaii. But like Brazil, it's like hard because it's so far away and so expensive to get down there. I think another aspect that's interesting, like, and I think we share this as well, is like having moved around so much and coming from a huge family, like the family ties and connections, I think get amplified and stronger
Mm-hmm.
because while they drive you insane, you know that that's a constant. You know that they're always going to be there. Like
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I can't wait for quarantine to get over. I'm going to get me and the boys together, boys trip. We're going to like I don't even know. They're going to go like to Europe or something." And I was like, "Dude, I can't wait for quarantine to get over so me and my family can go to Disney World." Like that's what I'm looking for. Like I do not care about boys trips to like Europe. All I want to do is like go to Disney World with my family. And I think that's another cool, that's like one of the pros of moving around so much is that you have to like cling to your family
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to come with you, and that's a relationship that's always going to be there. Whereas like these friendships, like you said, a lot of these people I'm never going to see again, never going to talk to again. And while to a lot of people that sounds really messed up, it's just kind of the mindset that you have to have, because if you try to have these relationships that you're so like invested in and like dependent on, it'll drive you crazy moving
Mm-hmm.
around all the time. And that's kind of the good thing of having big families. There's going to be at least a couple siblings that like are always going to be there and will help you kind of get through that.
That's one thing so I come from a big family like you. I actually never wanted as a parent to have a big family, mostly because I saw how hard it was on my parents. But the problem is I always wanted my kids to have a lot of siblings. So it's
Mhm.
like those two things can't, because, oh man, like, yeah, I can remember so many times. So me and my brother are only one grade apart. And I remember my first day in, excuse me, in seventh grade. I was in seventh, he was in eighth. We just moved in junior high. So it was like double the pressure because like, oh, like I'm a big kid now. And
Yeah.
I can see like, there's like girls actually with boobs now. And like things are so weird and crazy. I have
The
a
hormones are
locker.
driving you insane.
Yeah, it's like, oh man. And I remember kind of a funny story. I don't know if it's really what we're talking about, but so I was so shy at that time that going to lunch was like the worst thing. Like, I don't know if you've seen in like high school movies, like have you seen Mean Girls?
Mhm.
She goes to lunch and she doesn't know anyone, and so she goes and she sits in the bathroom by herself, right?
Yep.
I didn't do that, but like I didn't know anyone. So I'm like, crap, like, who am I going to sit with? I'm looking like such an idiot, like sitting on a table by myself. So I remember what I did was I would get in the back of the line, and then it would get closer and closer to the front to like get your food. And I'd just get back in the back. Right. Cause I was like, I just didn't want to get my food. Cause as soon as I had my food, like I had to find somewhere to sit and I didn't know anyone. So I was all nervous and
Yeah.
whatever. And my brother got lucky because our next door neighbor was his age. So he like they were like little friends, and my brother was like, okay, I'll just sit with them. So I'd try and sit with them, but he wasn't there that day. So anyway, he butted a bunch of people because he was like kind of a troublemaker. And he went and had lunch, and I was doing the opposite. I was going to the back, and I got called to the principal's office. And the principal was like, you're new here, so we're gonna like try and be nice to you, but you can't cut in line. We saw you cutting, and you cut off a lot of people, and that's not fair to them. And I was like, no, I didn't. In fact, not only was I
literally
not cutting,
doing loops.
I was literally giving my spot to the entire. I was like, the last thing I wanted to do was cut. I was like going to the back because I was reverse cutting. So they was my brother, and they like got in all this trouble. I'm like, no, man, I don't know anyone. Why the heck would I cut? Super embarrassing.
Yeah, I like again, like the fourth school that I attended in that 4-year period, I was just like, there were people that I had known because I had gone to middle school with them 2 years prior, but at that age, you're like, oh my gosh, it's been 2 years. They don't remember me, blah, blah, blah. I remember on Mondays for lunch, my mom would pick me up and she would take me to lunch. And on the rest of the days, I would either go to the gym at school and work out, or I'd go to my coach's office and watch film. And that's what I would do for lunch. Because there was just, there's just that anxiety of like, you know, you can make friends and you can make friends because you've done it so many times before. But when I don't know what it is about high school, man. There's just the hormones and the anxiety of being cool and stuff like that. It like kicks in. But yeah, I just remember like Mondays, mom would pick me up and we would go to lunch. And my buddies would be like, where were you at lunch today? I was like, oh, I was just getting lunch with a different group of friends. And they're like, who is this group of friends? And I'm like, my mom.
Like they're like all like, we saw you with this hot chick. Like, dude, that was my mom.
Dude, don't even get me started about that. Because my mom is half Asian. And Asians, stereotypically, they don't age. And so I can't tell you how many times we're like, yo, is that your sister? Or that's your girlfriend? Dude, that's my mom. And the worst part is my mom, like when I was in high school, when I was 16, my mom had a baby. And so going to the grocery store or being like seen in public with her was just like, dude.
And you've got the scruff, like you've got
yeah,
an
back then I
face.
had the scruff. My voice has always been deep. And so like eventually I would say dad all the time. I'd just be like, hey mom, what's dad up to today? Hey mom, what's dad doing? So like I made it clear to everyone, this is my mom, because like my mom just doesn't age. She looks the same as she has like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. She does. She looks great. So if she's listening to this, let her know that she does look great. My mom.
Shout out to Kalina. It's freaking.
My mom has that same issue. She has always looked young, and my brother has look old. Like my oldest brother, he's tall and he's big, and he's always looked a lot older than he was. And there was this one time where one of my friends, his mom sat me down and was like, Reed, I wanna talk to you about something. This oldest brother of mine had been out of town for several years, so no one knew him. And he came back to live with us for a while. And my neighbor was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I saw your mom with this older man. I'm like, oh no, yeah, I'm not trying to create drama, but I think that she might be having an affair. And I'm like, tell me about this guy. Did he look a lot like her? A lot? Were they could be brother and sister? Yeah. Was he wearing an athletic A's jacket? Yeah, that's my brother. He's not having an affair.
My business, lady. God.
How many people have you told?
But I'm trying to start drama.
I know. She's like,
how old were you at this time?
I was in high school, so I was
what the hell?
I know, seriously. And who knows? She probably had spread the rumor and
probably.
Deborah's having an affair with her own son.
Yikes. Yeah. The fact that lady said that she was the first Karen. That's the first Karen right there.
Yeah,
Stirring up drama to a high school kid.
I know,
That's
for real.
ridiculous.
There was this lady in my ward growing up, and she was like very young. Well, I mean, you could tell that she was older, but she was very tiny. She was like extremely skinny. Um, and so she looked young. She looked good. Like she was really fit and whatever. And I remember she was the chaperone for one of our stake dances. And like this guy asked her out to dance, which she didn't think was that weird because sometimes people ask the chaperones, it's like kind of like a funny, like, look how cool I am. I'm dancing with an adult, but he didn't know. He was like in 7th grade. And she was teeny and she was short. And he
Oh,
like, I only know this because she told my mom who told me, but he's like dancing with her. He's like, you're really cute. Like, what's your name? She's like, Sister blank, right? He's like, oh, sister. like I know we're at a stake dance, but it's like a little formal. And then he like tried to ask her out, ask her number. She's like, I'm like 48 years old and you're 12.
yikes. Yeah, I don't know if you ever went to EFY as a kid,
Mm-mm.
but that was like the thing. You asked out your counselor. Like you
Ooh.
throw the dances, you asked your counselor to dance, and you try to see if you could spark something. And
Were they older?
I mean, they were, yeah. Like I think,
Like
you know,
19?
one year, I think when I was 17, our counselor was 22, and I was like, age is but a number, baby. And then she like got engaged a week later, and I was like, word, stick.
At our age now, like I'm 26. If my friend's dating a 28-year-old, it's like whatever, who cares? But at that age, like if you're 12 and they're 14, or you're 16 and they're 18, it's like, oh man, going for like this way older woman.
Like I said, my first date was with a girl that was 16. I was 14. I was
Oh,
like
that's
a
right.
legend. I was an icon. But if I date a girl that's like 29, it's like, so? But it's so funny, like in the teen years, at 1 year, a 1, 2, 3 year difference can make you either an icon or a complete weirdo.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
it can.
guys can date girls, I don't know what it is, but guys can date girls that are older. But if a guy dates a girl that's like 2, 3 years younger, you're kind of like,
Oh yeah.
but then
Especially.
you find dudes that are married to girls like, oh, my dad's like 2 years older than my mom, and it's just like, what the, like, for some reason those teen years,
Yeah, there's like
there's like these
weird.
unwritten rules.
There's weird ages where it's even worse. Like, so if you're dating in your 30s, like, and the guy's older, that's pretty normal. I'm older than my wife, my dad's older than my mom, but like when you graduate high school, even if it's 1 year and you're dating a girl that's still in high school, for some reason that feels weird. It's like you're only a year apart, but like people give you a lot of crap for that. They're like, she's still
Yeah,
in
I
high
remember.
school, man.
Yeah, I remember my college roommate was dating a girl in high school. She was a senior and he was a freshman in college. And we were all just like, dude, get with the college chicks, bro. And I don't know if they're married now, but if they're married now, like, who cares?
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. In fact, when me and my wife met the first time was when we were like kids. I was 14, she was 12. And we didn't date or anything. Like we didn't start dating till like I was like in my 20s, right? We didn't even She lived in Arizona, I lived in Utah, but we met at that point and I like thought she was a little kid. I like didn't even I was like, what the heck? Like she tells the story now. She's like, I saw him and he was 14 and he was like old and cool and like in junior high and whatever. But to me, I was like, that you're like at the kids' table. Like I didn't even think twice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Like my grandma is 7 years older than my grandpa. And like as a kid, I thought that was the weirdest thing in the world. I was like, the girl can't be older. I'm like, but now, like, where did this rule like enter my brain that the girl can't be older,
Yeah.
or like a certain age? Like, okay, 20-year age difference between a spouse. I'm looking
Yeah.
at it a little sideways. But like 4 or 5 years, like, who cares?
Well, yeah, it's like if you're like in different generations, it can get kind of hard. Like if I was to date my sister's friends, my sister is 12, like So that's what, like more than 10 years. They like have there's like a language I don't even speak, you know?
Sometimes I talk to my sisters and they use words and I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know, and they're like, I'm like talking to my sister and she's like doing a TikTok dance, like mid, conversation. I'm like, what's going on?
I'm
Like,
like, back in the day, we just used to, and they're doing, yeah, they're choreographing all these things, and I'm like, where do you have the time? Like
no,
back in the day, like we did not have time to, or like the patience to put these videos out.
this is how you know you're getting old. When you start seeing the kids in high school and you're like, oh, these damn teenagers,
Well,
like,
for me, dude, like I cover high school sports.
uh-huh.
And so like I go to games and I interview kids sometimes and I'm just like, what? What are you talking about?
It's like, yeah, it was jelly, fam. And I was like trying to get lit. I'm like,
I'll show you a story. So last year, I won't say the kid's name, obviously, but this kid was like on fire. Like he had like, I think it was like 3 or 4 games of 30 plus points, and we're getting close to state. So I'm doing this story of previewing the state championship stuff, and I go and interview this kid, and I'm like, and I just asked him, I was like, oh, like what have you seen in the last couple of games that have like been able to allow you to have such successful nights? And he's like, the chicks like dudes that get buckets, dog, so I get buckets. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, yeah, I can't use that. I mean, I could use that. I could put that on TV and make this kid look like a complete idiot, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm just like, the chicks like dudes. I mean, he's not lying. He's not lying.
It's a good answer.
Spitting straight facts. And I'd be lying if I said at his age, I probably would say something similar. But that was oh my God, I'm old.
That is so funny. Like that kid.
And I showed it to everybody.
And...
I was like, yo, listen to this soundbite that I just got from this kid. And everyone started busting out laughing. And I was like, I'm old, man. Because I heard it. Like, had I been like 20, I'd heard it and I'd be like, yeah, I probably would adapt him up. But I didn't have that reaction. My reaction was, I can't use that. What are you talking about? I just like wanted to slap him. I was like, oh, I've reached that point. I'm old.
And now, like when stuff like that happens and I try to like relate, now I'm like that weird old guy that's like, what's up, fellow youth? Like, it's lit, fam. Like, whipping nay. Like, I don't, like, I just sound like an idiot. I can't do it anymore. I'm too old. I'm not cool anymore.
The coolness, I don't know about you, but cool, like, it's a cliff fall. It's not like a slow deterioration where you're not that cool anymore. It's you're cool and then instantly you're not cool.
Yeah.
Like they start using words like I was around, I think I was still, cool when they was using lit and stuff like that. But now there's words like simp and like, why are you simping? I'm like, what is a simp? Like Simpsons? Like, what are you talking about? And they just use these terms and it's just this slang that changes. And if you're not like fully engulfed in the culture and you're missing out on it, instantly you fall off a cliff. And I don't know when it happened, but I fell off a cliff at some point. And now I'm just like, all right, I'm embracing my role. I'm the old dude now.
Yeah, I'm the old guy that's like, well done, young fella. I'm no longer the kind of older guy that's like, yeah, like I could still beat you up, but like, good job,
Like, well, we break out the Soldier Boy at a party, and everyone's like, they're like, oh, but I'm like, oh, that'll be cool in like 10 years, like on the next TikTok app, like you'll be doing like throwbacks to Soldier Boy. Because like they're doing like, throwbacks of old dance moves. I'm like, just give it 10 more years and our Soldier Boy and those kind of dances, they'll be cool again. And so we might be able to like revive our coolness for a small amount of time. But for now, yeah, we're out of the bubble.
Yeah, that's why you got to hold on to your clothes. Because like 30 years from now, they're going to be cool again.
I don't know about you, dude. I remember the baggy era.
The what?
The baggy era.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Baggy shirts. Like, I hate the tight clothing now. Like, everything's got to be, like, slim fit. I remember in high school going to school every day with sweatpants and remember those big jeans that were baggy?
Like MJ? Like what MJ wears?
Like saggy. And you had the white tees that, like, made you look like a marshmallow. Like, I miss that
tall tees.
Because it was comfortable. Like, You were
Yeah.
always comfortable. Now you got these skinny jeans and slim fit shirts, and I'm like, bro, I can't be rocking the slim fits, especially in quarantine, because I've at least gained in quarantine 15 plus 15. Like,
It's risky too. When you buy like a slim fitting suit, you're like, okay, like measure me exactly. And then I like look perfect. So I can't gain or lose any weight. Otherwise, this won't fit me anymore. And I got suits like that now because like I got them like 5 years ago. And now it's like, I can't wear them anymore. I've
and I
gained
mean, like
muscle.
last year I bought new suits and I got them tailored because I was like, you know what,
Go for it.
been
Yeah,
on,
YOLO.
on TV. That was my justification. I'm on TV, so I need a nice suit. So I got tailored, and then quarantine hit, and a lot of my workouts, like I would work out, but a lot of the workouts was I carry that big camera and would run like all over the place to these different games. I'm not doing that anymore. Now I do a lot of my work from home. I'm always in the studio. I'm always at my desk. All the footage gets sent to me. And then all of a sudden, like it was like July, August, I was put on my suit and I was like,
Oh no.
I looked at it, I was like, man, I gotta suck it in to button this suit.
The suit's broken. What the heck?
And I was looking on TV, I'm like, camera adds 15 pounds, right? And I was like, may add 15, but it's not adding the extra 15. I was like, what in the world? And so I just had to go back. So I went to go get new suits and I was like, yeah, let me get the custom fit. And this lady was like, I don't know if you know this, but slim and extra slim fits are in. And I was like, yeah, lady, they're in and they don't fit anymore. So give me the custom fit. I don't care if it's baggy.
Dude, it sneaks up on you. You don't even notice so when I gained the most weight of my whole life was when we lived in Chicago. I was doing summer sales. The previous years I had walked like between doors because door knocking, and then this year someone gave me the idea to buy a Segway, and so I could just like between doors. So I did, and so I didn't. My one exercise was gone, and like I used to walk all day every day, and now I was segwaying all day, and we had like fast food for lunch every day, and we had just gotten married. So Maddie was like, "Let me try out every single recipe," because I just like I've never had someone to cook for, and so I was eating like dinner for 3 every night. And you look in the mirror every day, so you can't really tell. And then
Mm-hmm.
like you like look at a picture or something like, "Oh shoot, there's 2 of me."
Yep.
It's like
I
I squished, you know?
Yeah, that was me this year because it's interesting, like health wise. I don't know if you were like, but being an athlete all through high school and even when I was an athlete in college, you're just burning calories constantly.
You don't even think.
And
You're just
then
like going.
and even in your early 20s, like you're still metabolism super high, but then you get towards the back end of the 20s, and it really happened this year where my constant of carrying a big 20, 30-pound camera and running around, that was sufficient enough to maintain my weight. And once that consistency was gone, and then in quarantine, I don't know if I went through this phase for sure, where there's a couple months where I was eating out 3-4 times a week, sometimes 5 times a week, because you have no motivation to do anything. And it's interesting, like the older you grow up and you just got this crazy metabolism. You can eat 2 Chipotle burritos, not gain any weight. You eat a Chipotle burrito on the wrong day, that that slim fit shirt that you've been rocking the last 10 years is going to go into a extra large.
It's crazy. All the advice that I used to hear from adults like didn't apply to me when I was a kid. They're like, don't don't eat or don't swim right after you eat because you'll feel sick. And I'm like, I don't feel sick. Like, I can do whatever I want. Or like, make sure you stretch before you go like play baseball because you'll hurt your arm. I never hurt my arm. All those things like don't eat late and don't have sugar like in the middle of the night, blah, blah, blah. Don't overeat. Yeah, that's great advice for me now. All that stuff is super.
Oh, dude, I don't eat after 9. After 9, it's like I'm not touching anything. Like working out, I got to stretch before and after. It's all those things that your parents said. Like, and one of the main things I never understood playing pickup basketball, why all the old dudes were tired after 1 or 2 games. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I think the last time I played was this summer. We played in the 21. At 19, my legs were shot.
Yeah.
I was shooting air balls left and right because my legs were gone. And then they were like, let's run it back. And I was like, we can run it back in like a week, like 2 weeks. I am done. I'm not doing this no more.
It's crazy. You had like an unlimited fountain of energy. I remember we used to, like in the summer, like when I was like a sophomore, we would get up, we'd all go meet at the church. We'd play basketball from like 9 to 2. And then we'd go and like hang out at someone's house and like play NBA 2K or something. And like, what do you guys want to do? Like, I don't know, man. Like, let's go. And then we'd go do something else super active. We'd let's go, let's go hike in this cool place and like invite some girls, or let's go explore this or whatever. And it was now, or let's play basketball again, you know? Like
Mhm.
it was just like you never got tired. And now I like go on a walk with my baby and I'm like, oh, yikes. I should have stretched.
Yeah, I remember those summers because I played AAU, and so we'd have like 3-4 games in a day, and then at night we'd go hang out, have a bonfire, and just go go go. Now, like, I'm only at work for like 2-3 hours a day because I do most of it from home. But like after I get home from work, I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Mm-hmm.
just sat at my desk for 2 hours, 3 hours, but I'm exhausted. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna sit here and watch Netflix and go to bed.
Yeah. I wonder
Like
if
the
there's
energy is just gone.
no, it's weird. And the worst part is it's not getting really any better. I mean, like you can obviously improve a lot of these things just by like, like being healthy or being fit or whatever, but you're only getting older, you know?
It's only
Like,
gonna get worse.
yeah. And so like I finally get it now. Like I used to see commentators would be like, yeah, Brett Favre is 32 years old. And he's retiring. And I'm like, what, 32? Like my dad's 50. Like should keep playing. Now I'm 26 and I get up out of bed and my back is just killing me. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I could not be playing professional football at
Which makes
30.
you also just marvel at the freak of these athletes. Because 2 summers ago, I fractured a bone in my foot and I sprained my ankle, and I
Ooh,
was out for like 4 months.
ooh.
But then I saw Jean Morant had the similar injury, and he played last night after 2-3 weeks, and I'm like, 2-3 weeks? I was out for 4 months. And even like it took about a year of still being like a little tender some days if I overworked it. It really makes you marvel at some of these athletes because, like, yeah, like LeBron, for example, he's 36 right now. It's 18th year in the NBA, and he's never hurt. And I'm like, dude, he's 36. I'm 26. Like, he's a decade older than me. And a wrong cut, and my hamstring is shot.
Absolutely.
And you hear about these guys that put like millions of dollars a year in their bodies. And I'm like, not
Yeah.
me.
Like LeBron, right?
Not,
I heard he spends like $1 million a year just on his body.
yeah, I think I heard about him and Russell Wilson. They just, they have, obviously, I think a lot of that is, the trainers, obviously, and, chefs to make them, the right foods to eat and all that. But, it's wild. It's wild to see, like, I don't know if you watched The Last Dance this summer,
Oh,
but
that
I
was
was watching
literally,
it.
dude, that was my favorite documentary I have ever seen.
I could not stop thinking about it. And I was just watch it over and over again.
I still think about it. I'm serious. I was like, yeah, well, it was crazy. Every second I like could not peel my eyes. Like man is insane.
Like it was, I was talking to a buddy about it. It's the greatest pre-workout of all time. All you need to do is watch one episode and instantly you're like, I need to go get my stuff together. Like the amount of dedication that man had in that documentary, I was just like, because you knew he was different. You knew he was like, there was something different about MJ. But for like 10 straight hours, and I think also it was like we were in quarantine, so there really wasn't anything going on. It felt like the whole entire world at that time was tuning in and
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it together. But I was just like, this dude, and he never turned it off. Because I'm pretty I consider myself pretty competitive, but I can play a game of Uno and be relaxed. I don't
Yeah.
think Michael Jordan can play a game of Uno and be relaxed.
I've gotten better too. Like when I was younger, I was like I took everything serious, and it seems cool, but then like you end up just being kind of a jerk a lot of the time. And like, so I'm really competitive too, but I've learned over time to like, just like, take a chill pill once in a while. Like we're playing volleyball with the kids, in the neighborhood. You don't need to spike it like as hard as you can. That's a douche move. Um, but when I watched that, I was like, this guy, we talk about like the levels of superstardom, you know? And it's like this guy makes the top superstars in the world look like normal players. Like he is like so far beyond obsessed and competitive and crazy. It's like I was so motivated after that. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm doing nothing. This guy's like taking on the world every day, you know?
Yeah, and that's like the mindset. It's interesting because like that mindset that Michael, Kobe, LeBron, Muhammad Ali, that they all have, all these super successful people. It's like if you could find a way to channel their competitiveness to be great at whatever you do, but also be able to find a way to turn it off and channel it to be like a normal person. Like that's kind of like the trick.
Yeah.
Because I know at least like for work, I'm extremely competitive. And I know there's days that people are like, I wish Mick would just relax. But it seems like, I don't know, it just seems like that's like the pattern to be successful. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be obsessive, you have to demand a lot. And it doesn't like, I'm sure there are examples, but it seems that a lot, like the common denominator of a lot of successful people is the obsessiveness, the demanding of greatness, and just the relentlessness. And I think that really came out in the documentary. You just sort of saw like, oh, that's why he was successful. Because a lot of people, I feel like in our, unfortunately in like the era of social media, everybody wants to get big and famous. Everyone sees a LeBron and a Michael Jordan and a Jeff Bezos, and they just see like they see the end product. But with The Last Dance, it was cool because you got to see like the process of like what it took to get there,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just being like, oh yeah, I want that, and not knowing like what it takes to get that.
It was like all the time, like all day, every day. The stories, I seriously was like blown away when the guy, I don't remember the name, but when he's saying, like, Mike, you could play, but if you hurt it again, it's the end of your career. He's like, oh, I'll play. He's like, no, Mike, think about it this way. It's like, I give you 10 pills for your headache,
Mm.
and one of them is going to kill you. Would you still take a pill? He's like, how bad's the headache?
Yeah,
What?
I was just like, he's different. The fact that the franchise, because you see it now, especially the NBA, a lot of load management and stuff. There was no such thing as load management. Like they were trying to tank to get a better draft pick, and he was like, "No, we're going to the playoffs.
I
We
love
might
that
get killed
part.
by Boston, but we're going." And that's because, I mean, like the Bulls at the time, they sucked, and they were notoriously known for sucking. And he was just like, "No, we're not taking shortcuts. We might get killed by Boston, but like you got to start somewhere." That was really cool. I love that because there's I'm guilty of this too, of sometimes trying to take the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can find a shortcut, if you can find a way to do your job that makes it easier on you, but doesn't necessarily put out the best in you. Sometimes you take the shortcut. There was no taking the shortcut with him, and so it's kind of cool to be like, okay, if I want to be as successful as Mike, like there's no such thing as shortcuts and tanking.
Yeah, that part was one of my favorite parts in the whole thing because he's like, it was like morally against who I am to not try and win. And we're trying to tank, we're trying to be strategic so we can get a higher draft pick. And he's like, no, why would I? Like, I'm going to go out there and they stage a comeback win or something and then go to the playoffs and sets like the record. Was it a rookie record for 63 points against Boston or something? And like, it's just like, there's something so cool. One thing I love about Mike is how he goes 100% right at that thing, and he doesn't think about failing at all. Like like baseball. People always talk crap on him for playing baseball. Like, what? Maybe he wasn't the best baseball player, but I think it's so cool that he's like, screw that. Like, everyone says I'm going to fail. I am already the best basketball player in the world. I'm already the most famous person. Why would I go then try and be a baseball player where like I could just embarrass myself? I could look stupid. I could be a total disaster. And he's like, I'm going for it. And I'm not hesitating. He's not like, I'll try it, but like, I'm going to say that I don't care. Like he's like, no, I'm going at it 100%. And I respect the crap out of that. That's so cool.
Yeah, because like how many times like have we been like limited of pursuing a passion or a dream because of the fear of failure?
Mm-hmm.
Like even Mike, one of the greatest athletes of all time, did not have a fear of failure of playing a sport that he had not played since high school. Like if you were to tell me what I got to go, I was in a play in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, and you told me you got to quit your current career and go pursue a career in acting. The fear of failure is not going to let me do that.
Right.
But he didn't have that fear of failure. He's just like, dude, not like if I'm 100% passionate and I give 100% of myself to it, like no matter what the outcome is, like I'm going to be successful. And like, that was cool because I think there's definitely been a lot of things that I passed up on. Like while I was in that play in high school, it wasn't the cool thing to do. So the fear of failure and then the fear of like what the kids would think of me, I never pursued it. But I always kind of like look back and think, man, I always kind of like the theater and like I like movies and I like plays and stuff like that. If I had not had the fear of failure or the fear of what other people would have thought of it, what could have happened?
Mm-hmm. I think about it all the time. Actually, the exact same example. All of my siblings were in plays, and I started to see myself as the sport kid in the family, and so I never did them. I did like one when I was pretty young, and really liked it. And I am totally with it. I'm like, I always think to myself like, who could I have been if I wasn't so worried about what people thought? And like, it's such. I don't know how to get over it. It's not like I have the answer, but it's such a silly way to live your life, like not going after things for people that honestly couldn't care less either way. They're like, maybe they'll think you're lame if you join marching band, but they're probably just like, whatever. I don't care. Like we're not sitting here talking about people, how stupid they were for being interested in whatever. Like, you can be interested in anything. It's mostly in your own head that people are going to talk crap on you for it.
Yeah, I think one of the finally I was able to like turn the switch because like after I graduated from college, I moved back home. I lived in my parents' basement, which at the time was it was the worst thing that could have happened to me at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it took over a year and a half to get the job that I have now, and I think I had 611 rejection letters, and I worked at Jersey Mike's, the same place I worked at in high school, and it was just this. And I didn't pursue a lot of relationships at the time because I was like, what girl would be interested in a dude that can't get a job, lives in his parents' basement? And so I didn't give a lot of people a chance during that period because of my own fear of failure or fear of what people thought of me. In reality, a lot of people probably didn't care. And I know it because I'm talking to a lot of my friends and a lot of them are in the same situation
Mm-hmm.
because of the pandemic, and they're living at home because they got laid off or furloughed or for whatever reason. I try to tell them like, dude, I was there. Trust me. The people that care, you don't want to be associated with them anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, it's just kind of, and it just, it's very important to surround yourself with people that are going to, if I had friends that have been like, dude, go do the play, go do theater. But I wasn't. I was with people that, we're also not mature at that point. A lot of, jocks. I was on the basketball team, a lot of athletes. Dude, can't do the play. It's not cool. Like, I don't know. Denzel Washington's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the guy's name from, what is his name? The cool guy who's like Australian, who's bald. what is his name? Dang it. He has like a beard and he's in like Expendables and what is that guy's name? Anyway, that's who I was thinking. That guy's so cool. I cannot imagine someone being like, man, what a loser. Like, seen this guy? The Rock?
Yeah, the Hemsworth brothers.
Oh,
You think they? I don't know, dude. They look pretty cool to me.
I think like especially that age, you have this thought where there's like all these people like pointing and laughing, you know, or like at a party talking crap on you, especially when you're like in junior high and you're like, oh my gosh, like I people are gonna think I'm so lame. But in junior high, like everyone is thinking that. There's no other group of people that are like enlightened that are deciding what's cool and what's not. All the kids are all at the exact same time thinking like, oh, like everyone else is cool but me. Like, no, that's it doesn't exist. It's just you guys, none of you know that no one's really cool. Like, you know?
Yeah, and it's interesting because like with social media now, it seems that that same mindset is so prevalent and crippling to adults.
Mm-hmm.
Just from like, I'll use just like an example from my own career is I feel like a lot of people are in this business of television because they want to be famous.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be cool. And I see, and with with social media, it's even more. People do things on social media. People act a certain way on social media to be cool, to
Mm-hmm.
get likes, to get followers, to get, verified. I'll never forget. I dated a girl in college, and one day we went to her house or whatever, and she was in tears. She was like very like upset. And I asked her, I was like, "What is wrong?" And she's like, "My last post on Instagram did not get triple digit likes." And I like stopped and I thought it was a joke. But then I looked at her friends and I saw it was clearly not a joke. And then I looked at my friends and I was like, "Oh, that's not good." And then I realized it wasn't just her. I realized that there were a lot of people that felt that way, who would then delete the post as if, it had never happened, but like we're crippled by like a certain amount of people that they probably didn't know liking a certain picture or post or something.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and it's crazy because we went through that phase in middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
The need to be cool and the desire to be cool and acting and making choices making specific choices to be cool. And then you get to be an adult and it seems like that still is a thing.
It's hard to shake. I mean, I even look at my life now and I'm like, oh crap. Like if I, so and so like bought a house, they're so cool, or they have a Tesla, or they started their own business or whatever. You see it on social media and you're like, I want to like keep up with them. I want to seem to all my friends that I'm just as cool as this person. And like my opinion is if that drives you in a positive way, if you think about those things positively, like, hey, I want to have a better life, and this is some fuel that can help me get a better life, then okay. But if you use it negative and you're like, I'm not cool, I'm lame, I am not worth it, I'm 26 and not married, or like I didn't graduate from college, or and you only make it put yourself down, then it's going to really get in your head, and honestly just let it go. It doesn't matter, just grow up.
Yeah, I think Denzel Washington once said that like as an actor, it's better to be known as great than to be known.
Hmm.
Which I was like, that doesn't just apply to being an actor. That applies to a lot of things.
Interesting.
Because and I think he used the example is like there's a lot of actors that are known. A lot of people know them, but they're not particularly good actors. Like look at The Rock. I love The Rock, but The Rock can only play like one or two roles.
Yeah.
So he's known and he's successful. And I'm not going to say that he's not successful, but like, compare him to Denzel. Denzel can do basically whatever he wants. And I think, applying that to just kind of life is a lot of people want to be known. Not to be like known for anything particular, they just want to be known. But it's
Mm-hmm.
better to be known as somebody that's great than just to be known.
Mm-hmm.
And like that happened to me, like when I first started, one of the big things is to get, it's a myth that, the most successful sports broadcasters, everybody knows who they are. And so like one of the goals I had was like, I have to get verified on Twitter. It'll make me so much better. And then, so that was like my goal. I said, got to get my followers up, got to get verified, like was working towards that instead of working at becoming a better writer, becoming a better public speaker, becoming a better editor, or better at making relationships with athletes and coaches. Instead of that, my focus was Twitter. And then I finally got verified. And you know what it changed? Absolutely nothing. Nothing changed. And I was like, oh, wait, this whole time I probably should have been working on the other things instead of this stupid little blue check mark that I have next to my name now. But that's like a lot. It seems that it's, social media has done that to where it's this constant competition of what looks better, what do you have that person doesn't have. And it's this constant competition where that should have stopped in high school or middle school or even college. It should have stopped there, but it doesn't.
Look at like using MJ again, someone super successful. His drive wasn't to just be seen. It wasn't, attention. It wasn't like it was to perfect his craft. It was like you were saying, to be great at something. And that's totally different than just like, give me, those dopamine rushes. Let me be cool. Let me be accepted by you. The ironic thing is the people that are cool and accepted and everyone, like those celebrities or whatever, they're usually good at something, like it's not usually them asking for attention and trying to come across as cool. It's just like, look at someone like Elon Musk. It's like, everyone knows who that is. He's like the richest man in the world. It's not because he was like taking the right angle as Instagram pictures or like tweeting the right quote. It's because he like started all these companies and is super rich. He did something he was interested in. And I think I'm for sure culprit of this as well, of like, what do I actually want to do and what would come across as cool or interesting. And like the divide is where your life starts to feel a little weird. Like, wait, did we come on this trip just to take this picture, or like, do we like it? Like, do we actually enjoy what we're doing, or do we just want other people to think we're enjoying it?
Yeah, I think going back to the doc, I think one of my favorite parts of the doc was MJ's, because I'm a huge sneakerhead and I own probably too many pairs of Jordans. But Jordan said, he's like, the sneakers, the deals, they didn't come just because I'm Michael Jordan. They came because I was elite at basketball. He's like, if I had been averaging 9 points and 3 assists, I would not have gotten signed to Jordan. I wouldn't have got the McDonald's deals. I wouldn't have got all these deals. It was because I focused on my craft and became great at it that all this stuff came. It didn't come and then I got great. I got great and then it all came. And like going back to like finding what you're passionate about, I was a political science major my first semester of college. And I was only a political science major because I wanted to be a lawyer. And the only reason I wanted to be a lawyer is my best friend growing up, his dad was a lawyer. They had a house with a pool inside, and he was always like, every 2 years he'd get a new car, and it would be like a Benz or a BMW or Jaguar. And I was like, I'd look at that and I was like, I want to be a lawyer because I want to have a house with a pool in it. I want to have nice cars. So I went to college, political science major, took political science 101 my first semester of college, and I got a D. After like 2 weeks, I was like, I hate this. I hate it so much. And then I shadowed a lawyer for a day, and he did not leave his office. He's like, yeah, I have an 18-hour workday today. I was like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, I got all these briefs I got to go through. And I was just like, I hate political science. I hate school. I do not like I did school as a means to an end. And also just like, I feel like it was good for my social development to be in college. Me personally, I don't think it's for everybody, but I did not enjoy school. So another 3 years of law school was not an option. But I chosen this major because I wanted a house with a pool in it, a nice car, and money. It wasn't. I was not passionate about the law. I didn't care, but I wanted to make a bunch of money. And so like, and then after I got home from my mission, I had like I was like, okay, what am I interested in? And I had to figure it out because I couldn't continue being a political science major because I had gotten a D in the class and I didn't care about it at all.
When did you decide to do broadcasting?
I think I always knew, like your dad does something. I suffer from like, growing up as a teenager, no matter what your dad does, it's not cool. But like in the back of my head, I think I always knew that I wanted to do it. Like I always enjoyed going to games and, watching my dad work. So I think in the back of my head, I always knew I was going to do it. But then I got home from my mission and I was back at BYU Hawaii. And it's actually a funny story. I got a job hired at McDonald's. Sick. I was gonna kill it. I was about to make $12 an hour. I was about to be rolling in the dough. Got a job at McDonald's. So first day of class is Monday, and my first day of work was supposed to be Wednesday. So Monday night, I go to family home evening with my new ward. And I meet this girl. I'm talking to this girl. And she's asking what my major is or what I'm thinking about doing. I was like, I'm kind of thinking about doing sports broadcasting. I played basketball as a freshman, but I'm not going to play anymore. I'm going to kind of focus on school and getting into my career. She's like, my brother-in-law works in the athletic department and they're looking for a broadcaster. I was like, oh, she's like, yeah, come by his office tomorrow. I'll introduce you. Next day, I get hired as the university's broadcaster. I call McDonald's. I'll be like, yeah, I'm not going to be at work tomorrow. Wednesday, I started as a broadcaster, and ever since I haven't looked back. First day I did it, I loved it.
That is crazy. That's how you got started?
That's how I got started. And my first assignment was to do the alumni game for women's volleyball, was to announce the game. Uh-huh. So I'm already terrified. Never done this. It's not like it's basketball, right? No basketball. It's women's volleyball. And I get there and they're not wearing jerseys. Because usually, you have the jersey numbers and you have the roster, and so you know what players which. They're not wearing jerseys. So I have no idea who any of these players are. So I have to do a full game play-by-play, not knowing any of the people's names, not really knowing the terminology of volleyball, like as a professional broadcaster. I don't know the terminology all that well. That was my first assignment, and it was terrible. It was so bad. I was so bad, but I loved it, and ever since that day, I haven't looked back.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that is the coolest job. I think a part of me, like maybe a similar personality vein. That's why I like podcasting, because it's just like some people, I don't know what it is. I always thought it'd be cool to be. I love Stuart Scott when I was a kid. And Scott Van Pelt. And my mom was always like, you should be a broadcaster. You should be a broadcaster. I never really thought about it ever until I saw you doing it. And I was like, oh, dang, like you could actually do that. Like, that's awesome. That's so cool.
But yeah, if I had not gone to family home evening, who knows what would have happened. Because I met that girl. She introduced me to her brother-in-law and things got rolling.
You did broadcasting, so then that was at BYU Hawaii, right? And then after that, you looked for a bunch of jobs, and then how did you end up with the one that you have now?
So, my last year at BYU Hawaii was the last year that they had the athletic program. So the plan was to just stay there until I got another job, but because they closed the athletic department, I didn't know what to do. So I was debating, do I just stay in Hawaii and live there and still job hunt, or do I move back home? And going back home made a lot more sense because, there's a 6-hour flight from Hawaii just to California. And so to be on the mainland would be a lot more advantageous than being on the island. And so I moved back and Worked at Jersey Mike's. Well, first of all, I worked at a shaved ice truck. That was my first job out of college. I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods for 45 minutes. 45 minutes into my shift, I quit because the girl that was training me was pregnant, and her and the other dude that were training me were talking about doing cocaine after work. And so I was just like, what am I doing? And so 45 minutes, I just walked in. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. They called up my buddy who was managing one of the Jersey Mike's stores. And so I worked there for like 5 or 6 months. And then I don't remember doing this. Cause like, have you been like, when you're job hunting, you don't really remember like all the places that you're applying to because you're applying everywhere.
Yeah.
But apparently I had applied to work at my dad's station. So one day I'm at Jersey Mike's, like the lunch rush had just ended. I get a phone call. I call this guy, and he works with my dad, and he's like, yeah, we got your application and we'd love for you to come work for us. And I was like, what? I was like, all right. So I quit Jersey Mike's. I hung up, quit Jersey Mike's, went to work with my dad, was an associate producer. So I was kind of like behind the scenes, like bottom of the totem pole. So I was working as a producer, and I was actually doing a couple podcasts. And I was there for like 5 or 6 months. And while I was there, I was able to make my reel look a lot better, a lot more professional. So like after 5 or 6 months working at my dad's company, got an offer from here, somewhere in Minnesota, somewhere in Texas, Nebraska, which I said no to. And then after I just narrowed it down, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna come to Washington. So that was like after like a year and a half of this whole blur of Jersey Mike's and Dick's Sporting Goods and shaved ice and working with my dad. But after about a year and a half, finally was able to find this job and came here.
So what station are you on now?
So I work for the CBS affiliate. And so we're a CBS station in Washington.
That is awesome. Have you ever watched Sports Night, the TV show?
What's it called?
Sports Night?
I don't think so.
You should check it out. It's about kind of the behind the scenes of a fake like sports center. It's just a TV show from like the 80s, and it's really interesting because I didn't know that like broadcasters, I didn't know how involved they were. Like, I guess I always thought they were like actors where like they just like show up and like read what they're told to read. But I mean, obviously you know more about this than I do, but like they're it's journalism, right? Like you're out there getting the story. I mean, you said you were actually carrying the camera, like you go through footage, like it's way more, at least to my understanding, involved. It's like your thing. You're not just like the face at the end. You like actually do the whole process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think your job becomes a little bit easier the more, like a Scott Van Pelt, he doesn't, he's still got to do a lot of work for that show. But like what I do is, I shoot all the footage. So everything that you see, I'm actually shooting that with camera.
Dang.
I edit
That's
it.
awesome.
So after shooting the stuff, I take it back to the station and I edit all of the stuff. I write everything that I read. I create graphics. So the graphics that run at the bottom or run wherever it is, I have to create those. So yeah, I mean, that's why I think a lot of people, lots of people want to be sports broadcasters, but I don't think they like realize like being on TV is like 20% of the job.
Right.
If that. Because like especially here, like, so I'm a sports director at our station. Everything that's sports, I'm in charge of. And so choosing what to cover, shooting video, editing, writing, that's all, nobody does that. And when you get to bigger markets and you get to bigger cities, like for my dad, for example, he's very hands-on, so he helps the producing process. But my dad doesn't go out when he's at a game. He doesn't shoot he doesn't shoot with the camera. They have cameramen. They have editors. They have writers. But like in smaller towns and smaller stations, You just learn how to do all of it. And so in my opinion, and I learned this from my dad, is to be successful in the sports broadcasting business, you have to go somewhere small. Because
Mm-hmm.
one, nobody cares here. You see if Stuart Scott calls Aaron Rodgers Tom Brady, go on Twitter, everyone's killing him. Oh,
Right.
he doesn't know how to do his job. He mixed up the name. If I mess up a name, like the parents are going to be mad, but like no one's going to come in after me, Or
Right.
like I went through this phase where when I was reading, a lot of the times I would stumble and I'd fumble over my words because I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So like I believe, and my dad taught me this, is you go to smaller markets, you go to these smaller towns, because honestly, in the smaller towns, they're just grateful that you're there, and they just watching little Timmy play basketball, they're just happy that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to smaller markets, and then you learn all these different aspects. You learn how to do the camera, you learn how to write, you learn how to edit, and then you could just make mistakes because no one really cares. And then slowly build your way to like an ESPN, and now you have all this knowledge, and so even though you're going to make mistakes, it's going to happen, but it's not going to, like, if I were to go like 2 years ago, if I had gone from if I got from BYU Hawaii to ESPN, I would have gotten fired within a week because Twitter would have killed me, and also I would have just been terrible. But
The
I'm not going to get
pressure.
fired here because they expect you to learn and kind of make mistakes.
Have you seen the Boom Goes the Dynamite guy?
Oh my gosh, I had never seen that until last year because I had like seen the memes, but I had never watched the clip, like the actual clip. And somebody was like, "You need to watch this," and I was like, "All right, I'll finally watch it." And it was painful.
It's if anyone listening hasn't seen that, go check it out. Boom, that is so terrible to watch. That's what would happen to me. I already know. Like if the story you told about the volleyball game, oh my gosh, I would have just freaked out. Like, what am I gonna say? Like I don't know these people, and it's
It
hilarious.
happens, and I know exactly what happened. Like I was watching, and I'm like, his teleprompter is probably messed up.
Mm,
Because the pause, it's like, because I could just see it. I was like, he paused. He probably, what was on the teleprompter, he probably was wrong,
uh-huh.
because he probably like didn't like. So I was taught like so like a lot of it is reading teleprompter,
Right.
but I don't like reading the teleprompter because I don't trust the person working on the teleprompter. Sorry to the people that work at my station that work on the teleprompter. You guys are great. I'm sure it's not you, but I do not trust people on the teleprompter.
Probably
So I
watch
try to
Anchorman or something.
Yeah. So I try to either memorize or bullet points, or like if I'm doing a highlight, I like to ad lib it because I don't want to get messed up on the teleprompter. So like when he's fumbling, I'm like, his teleprompter is probably messed up. And he probably like didn't think, like probably has no idea what's getting ready to happen. But yeah, I watched it and it was just, it's like definitely had some, not as bad as that, luckily, like knock on wood, it won't ever happen. But like I've definitely had moments like that where that red light, so like on the cameras, if the red light is blinking or on, it means you're on live TV.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do as much prep work as you want. Sometimes you're ready to go and you're just like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And then the red light comes on and you're like, go to commercial, go to commercial.
That's a lot of pressure, man. That's awesome. I feel like I could talk to you all day. I got to let you go, but how can people that listen to this, how can they support you? What can they do? Can they follow you or anything like that, or what's the best way to support you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the social medias at Myck Miller. Yeah, just tune in. I mean, I know a lot of people probably won't be interested in the stuff that I cover. If you live in Utah or Arizona, you probably like, why would I watch high school sports in Washington or watch the Seahawks? But yeah, if you follow at Myck Miller, support
Wait,
local journalists. No matter where you are. I know a lot of people like watching the big networks, but occasionally tune in and watch your local news, weather, and sports people.
um, remind me again, Tri-Cities, is that close to like Issaquah? Do you know where Issaquah is? Or
It's about 2 hours or so.
Maddie just has
Where
family
the
that.
Tri-City is about 3 hours from Seattle and Portland, and Issaquah is probably like two hours or so.
We go there all the time. I didn't even think about that. My brother's there on his mission. We go there to visit Maddie's family. I should go there and have them tune in because they play high school sports. I wonder if maybe
Yeah,
they.
I think our sister. I think I don't cover that area. I think our sister station covers that area. But I've definitely heard of the Issaquah area.
Hey man, well, thanks for coming on. If you're ever in Arizona, stop in.
For sure.
And let's for sure catch up. It doesn't have to be on a podcast, but let's catch up sometime. And that offer that I just gave you also applies to me. If I'm in Washington, you gotta like take care of us, I guess. I have to stay at your house or whatever.
Hey, hit me up. I'll take you to the best Chipotle that we got. Not a lot of 5-star restaurants over here, but I'll take care of you guys if you're ever in Washington. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Always glad to talk to you and always happy to be a guest on the show. So thanks for having me.
For sure, man. Let's talk soon.
All right, thanks, man.